the principles of evaluation in our practice, and to ensure that the programs that we are implementing and the interventions are having an impact, and for all of us to understand the differences of the outcome evaluations as well as the impact evaluations for the benefit of the people that we serve. Thank you very much. We'll then move. The other speakers are allocated 10 minutes each. I'm timing them here as the clock ticks, and then it means that you don't have any more, you just wrap up, and then we give another speaker a chance to come in. So we will start with Dr. Lakavu, who will then be followed by Ms. Jennifer and then Ms. Merrilee. These are also coming from different organizations that are also working with government in the evaluation space. Over to you, Dr. Lakavu, and I'll be starting to time you now. Thank you.
Program Director, Mamu Kukushabangu, members of the Senior Management Service across all three spheres of the Government of the Republic, our social partners represented by academics in our universities, and our civil society representatives, such as ourselves, as Twendembele. Let me greet you, colleagues. Despite having a failed diplomatic career, I usually take my protocol very seriously. So we are essentially here as Twende to fill in the gap in terms of capacity building, so that we have our own humble contributions to building a capable developmental state that will be competitive, not only regionally in Africa, but also globally. Colleagues, the 21st century we are in is quite competitive, and the state, being the most ubiquitous institution, needs all the help we can get. And to build a developmental state is not just the prerogative of the state. So us as social partners, we need to bring something to the table, so that one day, maybe in 2050 or 2075, we can speak about the African miracle to follow the Latin American miracle that followed before us, and even the East Asian developmental miracle, which is probably the one that is most reputable. So that is the outline of my presentation, Chair. And I know I'm probably left with 7 minutes, so I'll try and breeze through most of my presentation. So let me start by introducing who we are as Twendembele, because when we were entering at registration, I told the lady that I'm from Twendembele. She was like, "Yinle." So now I need to introduce who we are. So as Twendembele, we're essentially a partnership, a peer learning partnership among 6 governments. That is South Africa, and our shareholder there is DPME. In East Africa, we are shareholded by Uganda and Kenya, and then in West Africa, we are shareholded by Ghana, Benin, and Niger. So we've got 4 Anglophone Africa countries and 2 Francophone Africa countries. But of course, we also have a wider learning network, and these are usually countries we invite to our peer learning events with the hope, of course, that being a Pan-African partnership, we can sort of grow and expand, because we've got 54 recognized African states in Africa, and Twendembele cannot remain just a partnership of only 6 core countries. So that is why we have a wider learning network, including some of our neighbors in Southern Africa, like Namibia and Lesotho. So that is who we are, and essentially our reason for being, our aim is essentially to build the public sector monitoring and evaluation systems of these governments, so that we can realize what Prof. Bob was speaking about in terms of transitioning into a mode of evidence-based governance, where we get to a situation where policy making is informed by evidence, not just evaluative evidence, but research evidence and other forms of evidence that inform policy making that inform budgeting, because we realize that budgeting and planning go together. You can have the best laid plans, but if you don't have the resources to match those plans, essentially you are stuck in essentially low growth rates. That is usually the failure of most of our governments in Africa, in the sense that we've got best plans, but in terms of matching the resources to those plans, that is where we usually fail. And we often say that it's implementation failure. But the honest reflection is that resources do not often match those plans. So that is who we are as Twendembele. Let me move into, I'll just touch on our business later on. I'll try and skip through these slides. So most of our business as Twendembele stems from our understanding of what the national evaluation system is. And because we're in a provincial government now, that also cascades down to what a provincial evaluation system entails. And this is what we believe constitutes an evaluation system as Twendembele. First, you need to have the individual capacity to undertake monitoring and evaluation. Secondly, you need to have the institutional capacity also to match that individual capacity. By institutional capacity, we essentially mean that you have the M&E frameworks that enable your institution, whether national, sectoral, or even provincial oversight government institution. You need to have those M&E frameworks that enable you and that guide you in the undertaking of monitoring and evaluation, such as indicators, for instance, for monitoring. And then we also believe that the existence of an M&E policy usually creates the enabling environment for that individual capacity and institutional capacity to sort of thrive in terms of the undertaking of monitoring and evaluation. And then, of course, why we are here as well, the integration of non-governmental institutions in the M&E system. Because often you will find there are social partners governments works with, specifically in sectors such as health, such as education, and many others. So you need to be able to create a mechanism where the M&E evidence from those social partners actually feeds into. Because can you imagine a situation where the Department of Health works with the PEPFARs of this world but is not able to tap into the health evidence from those particular partners? So we believe that integration of social partners in the national or provincial evaluation system works wide. It essentially contributes to what the provincial evaluation system is supposed to be. And kudos to KZN, because some of the work you are doing in terms of absorbing social partners into your program, your official provincial program, is quite commendable. So what you are doing here is essentially an example to be emulated, because you're able to absorb universities, you're able to absorb social partners into what you are trying to do in terms of your developmental vision. So kudos to that. And then lastly, the use of M&E evidence in governance generally, and development practice particularly. So that is our understanding, our philosophical understanding of what a provincial or national evaluation system entails. And essentially what we do as Twendembele, we try and essentially create interventions that cut across all those elements of a national evaluation system. Because we understand that if, for instance, we were to focus on only individual capacity building in national or provincial evaluation systems, then we are rendering that system to fail, because we are neglecting the other four elements of a national or provincial evaluation system. So our activities as Twendembele, while they're anchored in PL